The Ascent is one of the first big Xbox console exclusives for the Series S and X, featuring a gorgeously detailed, if disgusting, cyberpunk world and fast-paced isometric action. We've seen a lot of it since its reveal back in May of 2020, but now that we've been able to actually spend some real time with it, we've put together a guide for all you cyber adventurers taking your first steps up the ranks of its corporate megatower. This is your beginner's guide to the Ascent. The first game from developer Neon Giant Games, The Ascent is a combo of isometric RPGs like Wasteland or Pillars of Eternity and twin-stick shooters like Dead Nation or Enter the Gungeon. Some folks have referred to it as Cyberpunk Diablo, but it's less about a continuous loot grind than that might imply. Our previewer called it more like Cyberpunk Hunter the Reckoning, which, if you can remember back that far, sounds pretty rad. There is loot to be found, of course, but you're not just chasing the next weapon upgrade or armor set like in Diablo. The Ascent focuses much more on action than loot, with how you spec out your character being far more important than the loot itself. The Ascent couples twin-stick action games with the exploration and statistical progression of RPGs. You can expect to spend probably 70% of your time duking it out with a variety of human, alien, yes, aliens are a thing here, or robotic enemies as you make your way to the top of the corporate megatower. The other 30% is devoted to managing your inventory and skills, upgrading your gear, and exploring non-combat locations and talking to NPCs. Yes, The Ascent can be played either as a solo action RPG or a co-op adventure for up to 4 players. If its difficulty does scale when you add more players, we haven't seen a noteworthy difference yet. True to any good cyberpunk form, the dystopian world of Veles is controlled by huge corporations that are far more focused on consolidating their own power than they are with just about anything else. Your nameless protagonist booked passage to the planet as an indentured laborer, colloquially known as an indent, in service to the largest of these megacorps, the Ascent Group. You live in one of its corporate arcologies, a city-sized, self-sustaining tower that serves as home, worksite, and essentially prison to all of its human and non-human employees. That is, at least until the Ascent Group unexpectedly collapses, causing their ecology security systems to go haywire and society in the corporate stack to descend into anarchy. With other corporations and crime lords making a play for control of the city, it falls to you and any of your co-op buddies to climb the tower to defend your home and find out what's happened. The Ascent features a somewhat bare-bones character creator that lets you design the look of your nameless character. Don't sweat how your character looks too much though. If you're not happy with the original selections, you can always change your look at grafter vendors around the world. The real meat of character customization comes from how you spend the ability points you unlock as you level up. Skills range from weapon handling, which increase reload and weapon swap speed, to evasion, which increases the cooldown speed for your roll. And these skills can really change how you approach each fight. You get 3 skill points each time you amass enough XP to level up, which you earn by killing enemies, doing missions, all the usual good stuff. You can also find stray skill points scattered around the world, and of course we've got a full guide to find all of them. You can also reset your skill points if you want to change how your character plays later on, though this does come at a cost of some of your U-creds, which are the in-game currency. For your first playthrough though, it's worth it to unlock a more balanced skill set early on before figuring out what sort of playstyle you really want to dial in on. No, there don't seem to be any branching storylines in the Ascent. The RPG elements are largely focused on stat progression and unlocked abilities, though there are some non-linear elements like side quests. These don't have any bearing on the world state though, i.e. you won't be able to change gang allegiances and rivalries by doing optional content. It is worth noting, however, that just because a side mission says the recommended level is 2, doesn't mean you can run and do it before completing the first couple of main missions. A lot of side quests require you to explore places you may not have access to when you first accept them. Most of those areas will unlock as you progress through the main story, so unless you're totally cool with having a cluttered quest log for a while, you might want to wait until you complete the story quest trading places before really digging into them. No, the Ascent doesn't let your cyber warrior get with anybody, though. Honestly, is that something you'd really want in this world? There are a few different ways you can enhance your arsenal in the Ascent. Cybernetic augments are some of the most beneficial upgrades, but they're also the priciest thing to buy early in the game. While the temptation to blow what little credits you have on them may be strong, it's best to save your money instead and upgrade 1 or 2 weapons you've found with the basic components you come across in the world and save your U-creds until the world opens up after 3 or 4 story missions. On the subject of that more traditional gear, you'll pick up new weapons and armor as you progress, but they aren't divided into rarity tiers like so many other RPGs. Rather, you can upgrade them at vendors using a variety of compounds found around the game, either as loot drops from enemies, mission rewards, etc. Sure, we may have a tendency to hoard supplies, but you will find a lot of basic components, and it's actually more important to upgrade 1 or 2 guns early than to go ahead and buy new ones. Find the gunsmith in Cluster 13, which will show up on the map, to upgrade your favorite weapons with any basic components you may have found to get an early edge, which will let you attack some opponents that are above your own level, thereby letting you gain more experience and level up faster. You can upgrade a gun to Mark V using basic components, but further upgrades will require advanced components, which you can find in chests randomly scattered around the world or as drops from bosses or more powerful enemies. The good news is that your upgrades are consistent across all the copies of that same weapon, so if you accidentally sell an upgraded weapon when you find or buy another one, it'll still be at whatever level you had upgraded it to. The best items or loot caches will show up on your map. Often locked in chests, you'll need a certain ice level to unlock. They can contain anything from weapons and armor to cyberdeck upgrades, and while these are valuable, you should still take the time to explore each area. There's tons of normal breakable crates and other goodies full of credits and other useful resources, and you can investigate bodies on the ground to sometimes find a stash of U-creds or loot too. Feel free to shoot the vending machines that line the walls as well. They'll explode and spit out health packs, energy, and hacking refills, so follow the old rule, never pay for snacks if you don't have to. Combat in the Ascent is largely reminiscent of a lot of classic twin-stick shooters, with a couple of important twists that can take some getting used to. First off, the basics. Your starting loadout consists of 2 weapons and 1 tactical item, typically a grenade of some sort, that are selected from your inventory, and you can eventually install 2 augmentations and 2 modules that provide extra active and passive abilities. We recommend having 1 weapon for short range and another for medium or long range, like a classic AR shotgun combo, or use 2 guns with varying damage types. For example, ballistic damage is good for human or organic enemies, while energy weapons are good against robotic or other electronic opponents. Standard twin-stick strategies like kiting, which is where you keep attacking an enemy while running away from them as if you're dragging them on a kite string, and strafing around them are still hugely important too. Using the dodge roll is also a great way to avoid damage or cover more distance quickly, and you can also use it to roll under obstacles faster than if you just crouch walked. If you see yellow circles on the ground, you can hold Y on the controller or press C on your keyboard to try and hack them and bring some nearby turrets to life to fight for you. It requires a couple of cyberdeck upgrades to unlock, but the extra firepower can be invaluable. Where it gets really interesting is how the Ascent implements verticality and cover. The cover system is particularly important to get comfortable with early on, since you likely won't have damage-soaking augments yet. You can crouch behind any low object and shoot high with the right mouse button or left trigger to fire over the top of it. This can also be used to score headshots on enemies as well, though some enemies are shorter than others, so it's not guaranteed to work every time. Also, despite how good it looks, the Ascent is still sort of a 2.5D shooter as opposed to full 3D, so fighting in stairwells is a guaranteed bad time since you won't actually be able to aim above you. Hopefully that's enough to get you started off on the right foot for your climb in the Ascent. For more, check out our full guide on IGN.com, our review, or where to find all the cyberdeck upgrades around the world. And for all your other cyberpunk needs, you're already in the right place, IGN.